Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Sinead Aherne. Today's top stories. The leaders of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are to meet next week for exploratory talks. One Waterford TD used his maiden speech in the Dáil to highlight cardiac services in the South East. A 3-year drug strategy is being launched in Waterford today. And in sport, Waterford FC play their first home game of the season tonight. Leo Varadkar and Micheal Martin will meet early next week to have initial talks about government formation. It comes after the Dáil failed to elect a new Taoiseach last night. Our political correspondent Sean Defoe reports.
It was a 4-way stalemate last night with no one elected Taoiseach and the Dáil suspending for a further 2 weeks. The sitting saw sharp exchanges between Micheal Martin and Mary Lou McDonald.
Deputy MacDonald herself has praised provisional IRA units, and when she ends speeches with Chugigar law, I think Deputy MacDonald knows full and well what the use of that phrase means.
I see, Count Corlett, that we still live rent-free in Micheal Martin's very, very narrow and bitter mind.
So any idea of a Fianna Fáil Sinn Féin coalition fairly well ruled out. That leaves the most stable outcome of numbers to be a Fine Gael deal with Fianna Fáil plus the Greens or some other parties. Leo Varadkar will meet Micheal Martin next week.
At that meeting we'll discuss ways forward and I will then report to the Fine Gael Parliamentary Party probably Wednesday or Thursday of next week as to whether there's any basis for any further discussions.
It's a big jump from a first meeting to a deal actually getting done, but talks next week will perhaps be the first substantial steps towards actually forming a government.
Waterford Independent TD Matt Shanahan used his maiden speech in the Dáil to highlight the lack of 24/7 cardiac services in the South East. He told the House he would not be voting for any of the 4 candidates nominated for Taoiseach as a mark of protest. Deputy Shanahan says there are 5 national cardiac centres in the country and that Waterford's the only one restricted to a 39-hour week.
The only one that has to ferry people by ambulance or by helicopter when available to centres in Cork or Dublin, delaying their transfer times and therefore causing them additional cardiac damage. In 2015 to 2018, HSE data showed that only 1.5% of patient transfers done in that period, which totalled over 300 patients, were being received at an alternative cardiac centre within the appropriate time frame. This to me is unacceptable, and I believe it should be unacceptable to every other member of the House.
Waterford Fianna Fáil TD Mary Butler used her first speech of the 33rd Dáil to highlight housing and healthcare issues. She also spoke about respect, saying that her mandate is as important as anyone else's.
There's 160 people elected here and we all deserve the same respect that everybody else is looking for. The main job at hand is to put in place a secure, responsible government that can deal with all the issues, but that can deliver all the issues within the fiscal space available to us. And we all know there are so many issues in relation to housing, in relation to homelessness. But once again, I would like to focus on the lack of home care supports, the fact that we have 7,800 people currently here in this country who can't avail of a home care support package at the moment.
The new Green Party councillor for Waterford has been announced. Laura Swift will be co-opted onto Waterford City and County Council next week to replace Mark O'Cahasig, who was elected to the Dáil. Deputy O'Cahasig told Damien Tiernan on Daisha today that several people went forward with Laura being selected.
Laura has a fantastic background in the arts, in law. She's a practising mediator, and I think something that will wrong-foot many of the Green Party critics is she's also a cattle farmer. So she has the full package, an extremely competent person. We're also delighted, actually nationally, because we have 9 co-options happening nationally, and we're delighted that 8 of them are women. And I'm delighted that we have a slightly better representation now in Waterford City and County Council.
Laura Swift says she's looking forward to the role.
I'm delighted to take over from Mark, who's gone on to bigger and better things. I hope it'll be a successful job for me. It'll be very new, obviously, so it'll take me a while to, I suppose, find my feet. But I'm really looking forward to it, and the party have been very strong about supporting me, and there's a lot of expertise there and that. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Eoin O'Riordan has launched his bid to be the next leader of the Labour Party. He's running against Tipperary TD Alan Kelly to replace Brendan Howlin. At his launch, O'Riordan says Labour can't keep making the same mistakes of the past. A 3-year strategy to tackle drug and alcohol misuse in the South East region has been launched at Waterford Institute of Technology. It was developed over 12 months following public consultation. It has 6 objectives covering areas such as education and early intervention, with young people, families and parents, delivering integrated treatment and support and rebuilding communities affected by drug-related crime. Paul Goff is from the HSC. He spoke to Damien Tiernan.
Smoking cannabis, but now there are so many different levels of cannabis use. Also, some of it is very potent. We have also what we call new psychoactive substances, which are synthetic drugs. These were the old head shop drugs, but they seem to be gone underground now and they're causing major problems with people. But the biggest growth area in the region is cocaine use and crack cocaine use. Within our treatment programmes, alcohol is still the major one. About 56% of people presenting to the HSE addiction services are there for alcohol.
Councillors in Waterford have voted to approve the construction of 49 social houses in Ballygunner. Fianna Fáil's Eddie Mulligan called for the decision to be deferred until the new city and county development plan is completed.
The biggest representation from the Ballygunner, Williamstown, not by area is the lack of community facilities. And again, I go back to the fact that whilst this is 49 houses, there is already 110 going through the planning process, and based upon the Part 8 planning process to date, houses we are building are taking 4 years to build. So I don't think a deferment of a couple of months will impinge upon the development on the delivery of the houses. Consequently, I propose it be deferred.
However, Sinn Féin's Pat Fitzgerald disagrees.
A county development plan could take 2 years to put together. We're already talking about this county development plan for the last 2 years, or if not more, and we haven't even begun it yet. So, we've got to go ahead with desperately needed local authority housing that is desperately needed by young people in this area to put a roof over their heads. And I think this is a disgraceful counter-proposal.
A British DIY company says it opened a store in Waterford following interest from customers for its online business. Screwfix launched locally in December and is on the Tramore Road in Waterford City. It has 4 stores currently in Ireland but hopes to increase the number to 40. Divisional Director for Ireland, Anthony Spencer, explains why Screwfix chose Waterford so early.
We identify points in the country where we want a store, and Waterford was one of the towards the top of the list due to the population, the economy, but also the customers who use us. So it's an ideal location, and this itself is a fantastic location for us from a Screwfix point of view. Very easy accessible and around other similar sorts of businesses. So it's a great opportunity that we couldn't turn down.
And hundreds of workers in state-funded organisations that provide health and social care services are taking strike action today. It's in a row over pay restoration and involves members of the trade unions SIPTU and Forsa. Strikes are set to be rolled out in every part of the country in the coming weeks.
WLR Sport.
With thanks to the Waterford Viking Marathon. Register now at waterfordvikingmarathon.com.
Starting with soccer, Waterford FC play their first home game of the season tonight. The Blues open the campaign with victory away to St Patrick's Athletic. They welcome a Bohemian side who suffered defeat at home to Shamrock Rovers. Manager Alan Reynolds says they'll be a challenge.
Well, look, really good. They've strengthened from last year. They're even paying a few quid for players, which is unusual for them. But look, they've upped the ante on everything they've done this year. Their full time, their budget, etc. But a really good side, really good players. So we'll have to be at our best.
To rugby, where Ireland have been forced into a late change ahead of Sunday's Guinness Six Nations match against England at Twickenham. Devon Toner comes into the second row to replace Ian Henderson, who's been ruled out for family reasons. Connacht's Ultan Delan's been named among the replacements. Ireland's under-20s will hope to continue their Grand Slam push this evening. Noel McNamara's side are at Franklin's Gardens to face an England side just a point behind them in the table. Ardmore's Thomas Aherne lines out in the second row, where kick-off is at 7:45. To Gaelic games, Waterford lost out to Clare in last night's Munster Under-20 Football Championship quarter-final. Clare will now meet Cork in the semi-final after a 3 goals and 14 points to 6 points win on a wet and windy night in Milltown. Dacia hurling selector Stephen Frampton says they were disappointed that last Sunday's league game against Limerick was called off while the team were on the bus to the Gaelic grounds. He felt it should have been handled better. Waterford entertained Galway in Welsh Park on Sunday in their third match of the campaign. Stephen says new players have caught the eye in the wins over Cork and Westmeath.
They're the men in possession, so someone's got to come and take a jersey off them, and they've been fantastic and they've taken on the challenge, and they're good young guys, and really that's what we really need in Waterford, is for a few new players players to come in every year and challenge the guys that are maybe the so-called household names and put them under a little bit of pressure. And that's what Kilkenny had when they were winning in the noughties and the 90s, and everybody tries to replicate that, and that's what we're trying to do at the moment, is build up a good strong panel where if we have injuries that someone will step in there and it won't weaken the team.
We'll be broadcasting the game with commentary team Kieran O'Connor and Shanahan Aherne, thanks to George Corbett Skoda. Waterford senior footballers will be hoping for their first win in the league. They play away to Sligo tomorrow afternoon. Forward Dara Corcoran says luck hasn't been on their side in this campaign, and he's hoping it'll change against Sligo.
Obviously my first league campaign, but it's clear to see from the first 3 games there's absolutely nothing between the Division 4 teams. Limerick just pipped London by a point, and again in 2 of the games we played there was only a kick of score in it. Limerick bet us by a goal, Wexford by a point. It's just a bit of luck now. We're just waiting for us to turn. Like against Wexford, good second half performance. If we had played like that 10 minutes of the second half in the first half, we would have won. So we're hoping just a little bit of luck will go our way.
Throw-in is at 2 in Markovich Park. Sports news on WLR is thanks to WaterfordVikingMarathon.com.